Without a doubt, the star of the show of our most recent CitizenCon was the overview of the new and upcoming planetary tech that is going to be in our hands this coming 2026.
Allegedly.
And the debut of our new technological marvel will be the first planet of the Nyx system. There's no question that the proposed planet is an absolute gem, with gorgeous mountains, breathtaking forests, and stunning meadows, with lots and lots of
grass.
Yep, you guessed it, grass. However, there's a very obvious issue with this release that the community seems very adamant about pointing out. Nyx I isn't supposed to be this beautiful gem. It's supposed to be a dead, uninhabitable rock. And believe it or not, that can cause some issues. The original entry for this planet in Star Citizen's Galactopedia states the following. Nyx I is a coreless planet that orbits closest to the sun in the Nyx system. Once rich with valuable minerals and high-grade metals, Nyx I was extensively mined to support the United Empire of Earth's military during the Messer era, 2546 to 2792. The abandoned mining facilities that remain on the planet's surface are sometimes used as temporary shelter by visitors. Now, to the random passerby in Star Citizen, the change may not seem all that important, but as the community is quick to point out, if this planet changes to a beautiful paradise, the whole lore surrounding Nyx becomes a big plot contrivance. Quick lore dump. The Mezzers were a tyrannical family that had full control over the UEE at that time. A group of settlers, in their attempt to live outside of the UEE, decided to make their own colony in the abandoned system of Nyx, that had already been strip-mined and left abandoned by corporations and the government alike. The system had no strategic value, and most importantly to our topic today, no habitable or terraformable planets. That, mixed with the fact that defectors made their settlement inside of a dense asteroid belt, led to the UEE leaving them alone, deciding not to waste the resources to force their compliance. End lore dump. To the astute of you, you may have spotted the ever so subtle plot contrivance here. Because a full planet that either was habitable or terraformable is not just a major resource, but the biggest resource that the government can find. There would be zero chance that the UEE, especially under a dictatorship like the Mezzers, would ever let defectors take over that system. And even more importantly, that the UEE would ever abandon the system in the first place. So here enters the issue. How is this planet a paradise? How does that make sense with all of the lore that's been established and the lore that's been confirmed to still be accurate? It seems like the majority of the community is convinced that CIG is just going to retcon the planet into existence and ignore this glaring issue. And to be fair to those who think that, they did severely retcon Pyro to have more life-sustaining planets than before, and that's also still an unclaimed system. But to the status of Pyro being unclaimed, there's still the hostility of the system.
Allegedly.
Even though they aren't functional in-game, the lore of Pyro is that the star is very volatile, sending strong solar flares throughout the system regularly. Might be a weak narrative explanation on why that system isn't under UEE control, but still makes some reasonable sense, along with the effort it would take to retake the system from the gangs that run it after Pyrotechnic Amalgamated abandoned it. But Nyx isn't like that. Supposedly, the stellar cloud that Nyx resides in is supposed to cause navigational problems. Also, we're probably not going to be seeing that implemented in the game anytime soon, but that's hardly enough reason for the UEE to not want it. At least not as big of one as the sun trying to kill everyone every week or so. I think the answer to all of this is right under our nose, and resides in the track record of CIG telling stories as we're getting more content. They're going to make all of this part of the story that we've been engaging in since the beginning of 2025. Before speculating on how they're going to do this, I do personally think that the reason why is actually very important, to give us some context, and many of those reasons aren't always directly linked to in-game gameplay. From a game design standpoint, you can understand why Pyro was changed the way that it was. Even though I'm hoping for some of those changes to revert to the original design, a lot of those changes were needed. The same goes for Nyx. Now, if we were to have gotten Pyro exactly how it was originally concepted, it would be even less popular than it currently is. Nothing but a bunch of dead rocks of different colors over a massive amount of space, and only one space station in the system to get fuel or trade. Now, that would probably have been fine if we were well past 1.0 and had a dozen or so star systems in the game already, and all of the features had been completed. But since it was only our second system, it obviously would have alienated 90% of the players away from it. That's why those changes needed to happen. And unfortunately, Nyx isn't much different. If anything, Nyx is just a less dangerous pyro, and smaller. That needed to change, especially if it's going to be one of the first 5 star system released on launch. When it comes right down to it, players love new environments. The prettier the better. And CIG needs to grow its planet tech to its version 5. It's a no-brainer from a technical standpoint. Players want to see the new amazing scenery that was shown to them years ago with the Genesis demo, and what better way to show off all those new biomes than with a new planet in our brand new system. Along with that, the developers have another challenge: storytelling. Ultimately, the planned lore for Nyx was very stagnant. Sure, there would be stories to tell, and they have even come up with a fairly decent one for us to get started in with the addition of the Shattered Blade faction, but Nyx itself doesn't have a whole lot going on for it. Small, contained stories are always a possibility, but CIG needs more. They are planning on having a main story that weaves us through the first 5 systems in one singular story, and Nyx wouldn't be a big part of that. But now, the potential for conflict and immersive storytelling is huge with the addition of this new planet. I'll get to that in a moment. So we already know dropping a paradise in the middle of Nyx makes no sense story-wise, and we know CIG wants to give us interesting and beautiful planets. So how do they do this at the same time? Well, they do what they've been doing all year. Make the changes themselves into a story for the players to interact with in real time. This past year, we've gotten in-universe narrative fleshing out regeneration all year long. All of our events this year have been forwarding both an A and B plotline, and the A plot has us traveling into Nyx to continue the story. It makes complete sense that this planet's changes would also be introduced to us in a story fashion. Don't believe me? Well, I think CIG is already laying out the groundwork for it in a very small but potentially huge way. During patch 4.3.1, we saw on our newsletter loading screen a small but important note on terraforming. If you don't remember what it said, I'll read it for you. Re-terraformations of settled worlds. A new company is seeking government approval to address past terraforming mistakes, but are the risks too high? Citing the numerous technological advances made in the past few decades, a new startup claims they could adjust the harsh climates on previously terraformed worlds. While some are heralding the potential opportunity to address past mistakes, critics say that the risk of having another Mars tragedy is too high. I think this small little blurb on world building holds the key to their plan, and I think the plan goes something like this. A terraforming company has made new technological advances, allowing for not only correcting past terraforming mistakes, but due to the pushback from their critics, has allowed them to go even further and develop technology to terraform planets that were originally ruled out as not terraformable. They need a way to prove the technology works, and they can't do it on planets that have already had terraforming mishaps like Microtech, since there's already a living populace there. They can't test it on any planets that are in the Peri line, or any planets inhabited by other species, and they wouldn't want to do it on a planet under UEE control, since that would be them taking away a potential contract to test their own technology. Not to mention, if it went wrong, it could bury them. So that leaves abandoned systems away from UEE control in human space. Places like Pyro wouldn't be a good option because of the hostile gangs and the volatile star that could destroy the equipment or tamper with the results. But Nyx fits all the criteria. All they had to do was approach the citizens of Levski, who are already in dire needs of more resources and space, and convince them to let them try. It could only benefit the People's Alliance. If it works, then they get a whole new planet in their little system. If it doesn't, who cares? It was a lifeless rock to begin with. The test is an immaculate success, leading the UEE to contract with them to help fix formerly botched terraforming attempts, leading to us getting to experience even more biodiversity on our planets like Microtech and Hurston. Of course, this would just all be an in-universe way of CIG giving us fancier planets with the new Gen 5 tech, and to justify the changes in lore. But it goes even further than that, specifically with Nyx. Think about it. It makes sense that over the past several hundred years of terraforming, the technology would eventually make an incredible breakthrough. Maybe even so incredible that it can terraform a coreless world like Nyx I and give it a core. And the addition of the rarest resource possible in the universe, a whole livable planet, is now dropped in Nyx, leading to infinite narrative possibility. Now Nyx isn't just some empty system with a space station. It has a lush planet. How will the people of Nyx conduct themselves? It would be likely that they would split into factions, some wanting to protect the resource for themselves, sure that the evil UEE will want to step in and take it. Some will be angry, knowing that it's only a matter of time until they're caught in some sort of fight for it. And some may look at the situation and wonder why, even after the fall of the Measure regime, that they're still struggling to keep their independence from the UEE, the same empire that they are needing more and more to fight off the invading Vanduul. On the note of the Vanduul, right now they're only taking potshots at the system, small clans raiding and attacking, most likely for the honor of the fight rather than resources, since Nyx never really had anything other than minerals and the Vanduul don't seem interested in those. But we do know the Vanduul are very interested in biomatter and lush planets. They regularly band together to take down our most thriving and life-infused systems to harvest the biomatter for themselves. What's going to happen now that a system, right on the edge of their space, has a planet flourishing with all of the things they want to harvest? Maybe the small clan or clans that have been keeping themselves around Nyx see a massive opportunity to gain power and influence among the Vanduul as a whole by harvesting this very lightly guarded system and using the resources to grow in power. That sounds like a tempting proposition for a violent, aggressive, warlike race to me. And then finally, how will the UEE proceed? Will they try to finesse their way back into the good graces of the People's Alliance? Will they strategically allow the Vanduul to get closer and closer so then they can swoop in as the hero? Or will they declare an emergency and stake a new claim on the system to benefit all humankind? At the end of the day, we won't fully know what CIG has planned for all this until it comes out, possibly as soon as the next patch of 4.4, or not until the introduction of Nyx I sometime in 2026. But I do see a very large possibility that they will give us breadcrumbs along the way if they decide to go the story route like I believe they will. I do have to point out one retcon they would have to implement if they were to go this route: the green zone in Nyx. Right now, the first planet is too close to the star and too far out of the habitable zone. However, that small change I think would be perfectly fine, since that wasn't the only reason it was ruled out for terraforming originally. I think it's also important to remember that the narrative team at CIG are the ones that made the lore in the first place, and they are very aware of the potential issues this new planet may cause for the believability of the universe. I have faith they aren't going to just retcon this detail and leave it unresolved. But you never know. If they do, I will grab my torch and pitchfork with the rest of the community. Hey, how's it going? Sorry to interrupt. This is Generic Editor right here. Due to the fact that I work crazy hours and I don't get a lot of time to spend on making videos, while I was editing this video, a subject leak dropped, basically. If you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and just like and subscribe the video. I'd greatly appreciate it, and just go ahead and get off. But if you don't mind a little light spoiler, a new newsletter image dropped, or was data mined, that basically is confirming that they are writing terraforming of Nyx I into the story. I'll go ahead and throw that on the screen right now there for you. So it says, despite not bothering to ask permission from the People's Alliance to test their experimental technology in our system, the change that Genesis Terraforming has wrought upon the Nyx I's formerly harsh surface in just a short time frame is undeniable. I just wanted to sneak this in here real quick, thought it was interesting, and now back to the conclusion of the video. Since you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and helps me get my content out there. While you're at it, tell me in the comments, what do you think CIG will do? Are they going to break the lore and just lazily add a new planet in? Or do you think I'm on the right track with how all this is going to go down? Maybe you have a completely different idea that I didn't even think of. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I've been the guy with the generic gamer tag, and I'll see you in the next one.